Hey friends, it's Cass with Garden House Treasures. Thanks so much for stopping in. Today I'm excited to share with you how I made this resin tray with polymer clay, roses, and succulents. So we're going to hand sculpt all the roses and succulents on the inside first, and then we're going to get to pouring our tray. So I hope this inspires you to make a tray of your own, or maybe make another resin project with some of these roses and succulents, and let's get started. So I have another video tutorial on how I make my succulents, so I'll link it for you guys. But I'm just going to do a quick overview of how I make these so you have an idea. I'm using bright green pearl Primo Sculpey, and I'm cutting out 2 different size circles to make little petals for my succulents. I'm going to pick each one up, roll it into a ball in my fingers, and then we're going to pinch one end of it and then flatten out the rest to make a little leaf shape. Now I'm just taking a ball tool and making a little indentation in my leaf. And I'm going to assemble this after I've made all the leaves. So again, rolling it in our fingers, pinching one end, flattening it out. Now we have this little leaf shape here, and rolling my ball tool in it to make that indentation, and we're going to do that with all of our little clay pieces here. So I've made them all into leaves, both the large and small ones. I shaped them the same way. So I put a little piece of clay on this jar lid, and I'm using my ball tool to stick the wider piece of the leaf around that piece of clay in a circle. And I'll be using 5 leaves for the base of this. You can do it however you like, use as many leaves as you want. We're going to go ahead and take the same size leaf and do a second layer, putting the base of these leaves a little bit more towards the center. Now we're going to go ahead and make the bud of our succulent. So we're going to take 2 of our smaller leaves and match them up and kind of twist them together. Then we're going to take 3 more of our smaller leaves and simply place them around those 2 other small leaves that we squished together, and that's going to make our bud. And once we have assembled the bud, we're going to go ahead and just take a small straight blade and we're going to cut the bottom off so that our bud is not too tall in the middle of our succulent. To attach my bud in the middle of my succulent, I'm going to go ahead and take a small needle tool and score the base of the bud as well as the inside of the succulent. Then I'm going to take my smallest ball tool and use that to place the bud in the center of the succulent. And I use my straight blade to scrape the succulent up off the jar lid, and that succulent is just about done. We're going to take some gold mica powder and we're going to paint the edges with a little bit of gold mica powder to add a little bit of detail to these succulents. When you're done, bake your clay according to the package directions. And these are my succulents all finished. I think I made 15 of them. I had several roses already made, but I made one just for tutorial purposes, but I do have a rose tutorial also on my channel that I will link for you. But I'm taking some antique gold polymer clay Sculpey and I'm cutting out circles all the same size. I'm going to roll them into a ball and then I'm going to flatten them and just kind of pinch them in my fingers while I rotate that flat disc in my fingers. So I'm just rotating it around and pinching the edges. And I'm going to do this with all of my circles that I cut out. Once you've shaped all of your petals, we're going to go ahead and take 2 of our petals and we're going to kind of put the edge of one into the center of the other and just twist them together to make the bud of our rose. And I'm just rolling them up so it's nice and tight. Once we've done that, just continue taking more petals and placing them around the rosebud, and you will get a beautiful rose shape. And at the end of this, I am going to cut off the bottom of my rose just to make sure that it's not too tall for my mold. So we have our clay pieces all sculpted and baked and ready to be put into our tray. So our next step is to pour the first layer of our tray and our handles. So I have this handle mold here that I'm going to be using. I mixed up 8 ounces of resin and I separated 1 ounce from that to use specifically for the handles, and I'm just going to be making the handles clear. I like to make them clear because it doesn't take away from the tray and the detailing of it, so I just like to make them clear. I think it looks really pretty and elegant that way. So I'm just going to take this pipette and we're going to make sure we get into all of the little crevices of this mold, and we're going to be checking for air bubbles, and we're going to fill it up. I'm not going to fill it all the way up to the top because I don't want to have to sand it down. So what we'll do is we'll fill it up almost to the top but not quite, and it will leave a little divot in the top of our handle, but we'll go in later after we've demolded these handles and we will fill the top in with some more clear resin. And as always, I like to hit all my resin projects with my heat gun real quick to try and eliminate any bubbles that might be on the top. So we'll set this aside and we'll go ahead and get started on our tray. So I decided to do 4 different colors technically. I'm going to do clear because that's the section that our roses and succulents will be in. And then I'm going to do green, gold, and white. So that's what I have mixed up. So I have 7 ounces of that separated into 4 different cups for the 4 different colors. So I started with clear. Now I'm going to go in with my green. And then to separate the green from the white, I like to put the gold. So the gold is just glitter, gold glitter that I used. You can use gold mica powder if you have it. You don't have to use glitter at all if you don't want to. I really like how the glitter looks. I think it adds a lot. And because I poured my handles first, it did give my resin a little bit of time to thicken up, which is actually perfect for this project, but I made the mistake later in the project, as you'll see, of not allowing the resin to thicken, which made my tray turn out not exactly how I wanted it to. But this resin has had some time to thicken for a while, so it's actually working out really, really well where the colors aren't all mixing together. So I'm just going in this same pattern with the clear, green, gold, and white. So at this point I had run out of my clear resin, so I'm just kind of guessing how thick I'm going to want that clear section to be so that I can go in with the rest of my other colors and just kind of try to fill in where I think these need to be until I run out of those as well. Now I'm going to be taking my succulents and roses and just placing them where I think I'd like them. As long as the resin hasn't cured yet, I can move them around as I need to. So I'm just going to go ahead and place these now, and then I'm going to mix more resin to fill out the rest of my mold. So I went ahead and mixed up another 2 or 3 ounces, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pour where I know I want my clear resin first. So of course that's in this little area here that I left open, and then also in the opposite corner. And once I've poured that clear resin, I'll go ahead and mix up my other 3 colors and mix those as well. And this is a part where you'll be able to see that I did not let my resin sit to thicken up long enough, because it blends together more in this part, which is kind of the beginning of, you know, my mistake on this tray and why I ended up not liking the finished result as much as I would have. But like I said, it still turned out really pretty. But you'll be able to see what I mean when I say the resin was just too thin at this point. So you could probably see how the gold and the white had already started to run together, which is why I put another layer of gold in there to try and separate the green and the white a little bit better. But yeah, like I said, the resin it was too thin. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the rest of my roses and succulents in the clear sections. And once I get those all in place and I'm happy with those, this first layer will be done. For whatever reason, my camera shut off and didn't get me putting these last 2 succulents in that last corner, but you can see in this last shot I've got 2 succulents and 1 rose in that bottom right hand corner. So we've let this first layer as well as our handles cure. Mine's a 24-hour curing resin, so this is probably a little more than 24 hours later. So I'm going to go ahead and demold my handles. They might be a little bit bendy still, but that's alright, they will harden more over time. I know it's still a little difficult to see the shape, but hopefully you can see. And you can see this little divot in the top is what I'm talking about. I left that there on purpose. I'm just going to fill this in with clear resin when we pour this layer here. So I'm going to set it on my tray kind of where I think I want it, get an idea of where I think I'm going to be placing it, and then we'll go ahead and demold the other one, and we'll do the same thing. So I have another 7 ounces mixed up here, and as you can see, my bottom right hand corner, the colors blended together, which is not what I wanted. So for this layer, I'm going to be mixing all my colors again, my clear, green, gold, white, and we're going to be going in these same stripe pattern once again for this second layer. Usually I would just do a clear coat for this layer, but because my colors mixed together the way that I didn't want them to, I'm kind of just trying to go over top of them with the same colors in hopes that they separate, which once again I did not let my resin thicken up enough. So the white resin ended up getting kind of around and into the clear space and around the roses and succulents, and I did not want that to happen, but that was completely my fault, but live and learn. So now I know for next time to let the resin sit for a little bit longer. So yeah, that's what we're doing with the second layer, is going in with all those same colors. Alright, so our resin is poured, so now we can go in with our handles and we can kind of play around with them and see where we want them placed. Some people prefer to screw their handles in when the tray is completely done and cured. I prefer to just place them in the resin. I think it's easier, it helps the tray sit flatter on a surface, and this is just how I found that I prefer it. But you could do it any way you like. So I'm just gonna play around with it as much as necessary until I think that it's straight and the handles are even with each other. So I'm happy with my handle placement, so now I'm gonna go in with just a little bit of clear resin and a little popsicle stick and fill in the tops of those handles, trying not to move them at all. You can wait till the next layer if you want, because it doesn't matter if you spill any clear resin onto the tray, and then your handles will be cured into place, so you don't have to worry about them moving. But I had a little bit of clear resin left, so I decided to go ahead and do this now. Just filling in the tops of the handles, the little divots there, with some clear. And I went back in with some of the gold glitter resin here because the glitter does tend to sink to the bottom, so you couldn't see it very well. So I just went ahead and poured a little bit more of that before hitting this with my heat gun to pop any air bubbles. Alright, so for layer 3, we just have clear resin this time. Yay! We didn't have to mix any colors. I've got another 7 ounces mixed here. I'm just going to pour it on top, and then I'm going to use a silicone makeup brush to spread it around, make sure I get into all the edges of the mold, and make sure that it is completely covering the entire tray. So this is, again, 7 ounces of just clear resin, and we're pouring this all over the top of our tray. And of course I'm going to hit it with my heat gun and give it a couple sprays of 99% alcohol, and I'll also go in with a toothpick to pop any larger bubbles on the surface. Okay, so we are getting ready to pour layer 4 here. I wouldn't have had to pour a 4th layer, but the problem is that my succulents and roses in this corner here, I'll show you. I flipped it, so it was the top left corner, now it's the bottom right. These are still popping up through my resin a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but you know, I prefer that everything is covered completely. So I just mixed another 5 ounces, but I think I only ended up using about 3. So I'm gonna pour a little bit in this corner first, and then I'll pour some more over the rest of my tray, go back in with that silicone makeup brush to make sure everything is spread evenly. And I was kind of at my limits with this mold, so I had to be really careful that my resin didn't spill over the top. But yeah, because that corner wasn't covered and the rest of it was, I know that my table is not even, and that was what caused this problem. It's just an unlevel table, making the resin shift to that bottom right hand corner instead of being even and covering the whole thing. But that's no problem. We just went in with our extra resin and we'll just cover this whole thing up. If you do have this happen, you are going to have to do a layer over the entire thing. You can't just do that one corner where your resin was too shallow, because you will be able to tell there will be a clear definite line there, a clear definite kind of bump in the resin where you poured that last layer versus where you did not pour the layer. So just go ahead and put a thin layer on the rest of it that is full to the top to get everything looking nice and even. Alright, so last layer is done. So of course going in with the heat gun, the toothpick, and the 99% alcohol spray to try and make sure we don't have any bubbles on the top of our finished product. Alright friends, so we are finally done, and I know that may have not seemed too long for you guys, but for me, I think this pour ended up taking me over a week altogether, so I was so excited to finally be able to demold this guy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and peel off around my edges, being gentle with it, making sure that nothing is sticking to the mold. I've used this mold a few times and it has held up really, really well. I'm really happy with it. So yeah, we're just gonna peel off and finally demold our tray. And I'm so excited about the finished results. Like I said, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it did still turn out really pretty, and I think someone is gonna like it at one of my markets, and I think that they will hopefully snatch it up. So here it is. It's crazy to me how different it looks without the mold behind it, because you can see, you know, the clear spots more clearly. But yeah, I think it looks really pretty. I like the succulents and roses. Yeah, I'm a sucker for succulents, I guess you could say. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and were able to learn something new. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you want to. I hope you guys have a great day. God bless.